Welcome to another episode of The Underground. I'm Andrew Phillips.
I'm Jack Kemmerzell.
And it's been a little bit since we did the last one, but as we showed at the beginning here, Jack's been doing a lot of work in this collector's room of his. He did more upgrades and built some very cool scenes, and you've been getting into 3D printing, which I wanted to talk a little bit about that in this episode, but go, you want to share a little bit about that, what you've been doing with that?
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of 3D printing of vehicles for the GI Joe classified series. So Hasbro hasn't made a lot of vehicles yet for the classified series, which is your 6-inch figures that you've seen around my display.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but what scale is that? Just for those watching.
So that would be a 1/12 scale. So 6-inch figures are your 1/12 scale. So original figures are considered 1/18 scale. They measure, the original from the 80s are like 3 3/4 inches. The other figures that were released during anniversary editions in the 90s and 2000s were 4 inches, which is more in line with what 1/18 scale is. So what I wanted was to make vehicles that are to scale for the larger figures, so that I had both what I had for originals and for the new ones. So, been doing a lot of 3D printing, can find a lot of files online. I've made a HISS tank, the Vamp, which is a GI Joe Jeep from the very beginning. It was like one of the first vehicles I ever had and one of the first vehicles they ever made. And then the Skyhawk little jet thing, if we want to call it.
And actually, let me show this real quick so you can see what we're talking about.
So,
and then, I'm sorry. You also have the one, and I want to bring it in here soon, but you have the one that you're working on. What's it called?
The Thunder Machine.
Yes.
So the Dreadnought Thunder Machine. So.
And that's still under construction. So he's going to bring it here, and we'll get a close-up of the parts, and you can see what we're talking about and what he's doing to make these.
Yep.
This is the original one. Now, what scale is this one?
So that would be your 1/18 scale. That was for the original 3 3/4 inch figures.
Okay, and then now what you're getting out of the box, these are the ones that you've 3D printed. You're still in the process of assembling.
Yep. So this is the main body. So this is what I've worked on so far. I put the 6-inch figure in there so you can see how it fits. So as you can see, substantially larger, but
the detail is exact, so, just scaled bigger.
Yep, and so it'll have the engine on the back, just like that one. It'll have the front end, like that. And then we've got all the other little pieces and parts that'll fall into place as it comes together. I have a lot of finishing work I want to do because I really want to make this kind of really stand out and look really good. So, we got the doors. So every piece that's on that is duplicated here.
And then once you're done, you're going to paint it. So it'll look exactly like this, just to this scale.
Yep, exactly. So, we're definitely going to use the reds and the blues, just like they had in some of the blacks. I will probably, trying to find a decal set. There's a gentleman online on eBay who makes water slide decals for the 1/12 scale. That's what you'll see on all of the ones that Andrew has shown you already. And he doesn't currently make one for the Thunder Machine, but he told me if I could find a good master copy that he could use. And, as wonderful as the internet is, it's been very difficult to find a clean copy of those decals. Barring having to maybe buy an original set. So I'm still working on that piece, but I've got a long way to go with this. I want to really take my time. The idea is to make it look like a complete finished product, like no lines, nothing of the 3D print, just as detailed as I can get it, because it's going to be, for one of a kind for my collection. So.
Yeah, so that's really cool. And Jack and I were talking earlier, because growing up years ago, I remember when just being able to print on a paper printer was a cool thing. You could print your own documents right in your house, but whoever thought that you'd be able to actually download a digital file and then print like an actual an actual product like this in your house.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing.
I was thinking about getting a 3D printer myself just because there's some cool things that I can print for my cars. Also, even some of this stuff because I collect some of this stuff as well. But it's really cool. And as we saw already with the ones that he's done, he's painted them and made them look really neat. So that's some cool stuff.
Yeah, and it's also good, like when, like, to Andrew's point, it's, even if it's the original stuff, like maybe you get something, like for instance, on this particular Thunder machine, which I have, I'm missing the antenna. Well, I could just simply 3D print another antenna if I wanted to make it look complete. Or in the case of like the original vintage Wolverine tank that I have, the tow ropes break on those all the time. You're hard pressed to find one on eBay that doesn't have a broken tow rope, but you can 3D print one. So like if you ever run into that where you found something like, let's say, at a vintage store or a Goodwill and it's missing something, having that ability to like replace that part for that sense of completing your own collection is just that much better. So
yeah, that's actually really cool. Very cool stuff.
Yes.
You've kind of, I don't want to say deviated, but you've kind of put the brakes on Star Wars, and you've been focusing more on GI Joe. Also, you had mentioned there's a new line. What were they called?
Valaverse. So Valaverse has been around, I want to say, since 2019. Believe it or not. Smaller company. The owner used to work for Hasbro. He was a toy designer. Worked on a lot of projects for Hasbro. Decided that he wanted to kind of take his ideas and make figures that were more in line with what I think we all remembered being growing up. Good, solid military style figures. A new idea of like taking a modern, what would be used in battle today, and then like coming back with the file cards, equipment packs, a lot of things that make that collecting experience. And, for a lot of people who, have gotten into like toy photography and things like that, that's what he really focuses on. He wants to make, a good product. And I'll be honest, I do think that they're great figures.
Can we actually bring some to show?
Yeah, I'll grab a couple and bring them over.
So these are only part of your collection. You have a lot more, but you can see the quality in these, as we just showed in the close-up. They're very well detailed.
Yep. Yeah. So, a lot of these. So some of these, you have the two female figures on the end, Pandora, Kill Switch. I also have Eclipse and some of the other female troop builders. That was from the most recent series, Series 3. Was actually kind of funny because it was one of those things where in the toy world there's a lot of toy makers and stuff that won't put all their cards on the table of saying, hey, we're going to make a complete series that's just all female soldiers. And basically Vala was like, no, I think this will sell. I think this will do well. And made a whole series that was all females with the first females for the Action Force line, and like hotcakes. I mean, they're great detail. They have great file cards, just great stories to like build upon. What's really cool about all of the Vala stuff, from Series 1 on, you can interchange the gear. Yes, on the early series you would have to like do it where you have to kind of heat the figure up and pop a leg off or whatever. But now they're getting into more of the like removable stuff. So like a lot of these tactical vests are removable. They have like little pegs on the side so you can open them up. So it's really good. You can't really see the seams. They all have like the little details that really add to it, like the removable magazines from the pouch, little knives. Just really great stuff. And then the other thing is, you get a lot with these, which I like, is you get different hands for like different.
Is this more than like off the GI Joes
Oh
of
yeah,
this
so
size?
like yeah, with your GI Joe stuff, you don't get extra hands or different head sculpts or I'm sure anyone who's into toy collecting, just recently, Hasbro has pretty much said, hey, we're going to come up with different price points for different things, and if we include more accessories, it's going to cost you more. Um, Valaverse, their pricing has been the same since 2019. It's about 31.99 for a figure. And yes, originally a lot of people were like, wow, that seems a lot for a figure compared to something else. But in reality, what you get with the extra hands, additional head sculpts, removable interchangeable gear, really makes up for that. And the fact that from 2019 till now, he's kept it the same, whereas other companies have raised, and he's very been adamant about that he's going to keep it the same, which is great. I found out I never even knew these existed until probably 4 or 5 months ago. I don't even think I had
Oh,
any.
really? You hadn't even heard of them?
I didn't know anything about them until I started following another YouTuber, Articulated Ninja, who does great toy reviews. I like him. He's funny. But I never saw these until I watched one of his episodes, and he was talking about these, and I was like, man, those are really cool. So then I started looking at them. Started at Big Bad Toy Store because that's where I pretty much go for most of the stuff I get. In fact, this one here, which is your Steel Brigade Night Op, so this is one of your troop builders. This is actually a Big Bad Toy Store exclusive. You can't get these anymore. That's why this one's still in the box. But yeah, so really cool. But like some of even like the troop builders. So like you have your troop builders like this that come with all the weapons and accessories. You got multiple weapons, you got the knives, the hands, everything, but they're troop builders. So like if you want to have an army of whatever, that's what you got. Then you have your basic troop building figures, which are less. They're like 17 or 18 bucks, and it's it's a figure with a basic jumpsuit with a balaclava on, with two heads. So again, you're getting two heads, one with a white face behind it, and then one with an African American face. So like again, you can create troops. You can have everybody look a little different. You can space them out. You can do whatever. And then with those figures, you can also get accessory packs. So like an accessory pack like this.
Oh, so wait, so when you buy the $17, you don't get any of that. You just get the guy?
You get the guy.
Okay.
So you get the guy, and then from there you can build it how you want. Like if you want to interchange gear off of one of your other figures and put it on there, you can. You can buy the figure packs and build it how you want. And I think that that's the biggest allure of it is that you can do that. And like all this stuff is interchangeable with like your GI Joe Classified. So like if you wanted to say, you like these weapons and these sets better, you could use these and upgrade your GI Joe guys if you wanted to. But again, I'm not a paid sponsor or anything like that, but I do really like them. I think they're great figures.
They're very detailed,
yeah,
and I actually want to get a close-up of the detailed clothes because when we first showed them on the table, I was further back. So here I'm going to show some details.
Yeah. A lot of these, if you'll notice too, and they come with blast effects. So like again,
oh nice,
for like toy photography and stuff like that. Like you can see the blast effect on this one right here going on, and then it just adds to it, especially like if you like to make displays and things like that. So.
Those are some really cool collectible figures. Changing topic here. Mandalorian is back. The season has started again with that. I've seen the first, I think, three. I think this last one was the fourth or the third.
This is the third.
Okay, so I've seen the first two.
Yep.
I actually like it. He's trying to redeem himself. I've always liked the Mandalorian series, probably the best out of all the Star Wars series. Probably Mandalorian first, and then Boba second. Didn't really get into, what is it, Andor?
Yeah.
The other one. I saw the first one, didn't get into that one too much, but what are your thoughts about this new season of Mandalorian?
So far, I mean, I've actually, I've seen the third episode. He has not, so I'm not gonna give spoilers for about that. But no, it's good. It's having to find itself again, I think, on a different pace because when you had the first two seasons centered around Grogu and him trying, getting him to the Jedi and everything else, and then when you go into the Book of Boba Fett, and then you see what's transpired in the final couple episodes there, Grogu deciding to
stay with him,
to take the Beskar shirt and have R2 flying back to Tatooine. Then so now you're establishing this whole new connection. You've got to come up with that. So I think that for the first two episodes you saw, I think that it's starting to get those beats. I thought the first episode actually kind of like I was fooled at first because I thought what we were seeing in the very beginning was like him having a flashback of when he became Mandalorian after being a foundling, and then when all of a sudden the big crocodinosaur or whatever you want to call it came out, and then he flies. I was like, oh, okay, got me. All right. But I mean, that was good. I thought that was presented well.
Do you like the Mandalorian series better than Book of Boba so far? I know there's only been one season. I think they're working on one. But...
yeah, I mean, honestly, it felt like Book of Boba Fett was more like Mandalorian season 2.5. I mean, I think that as someone who has, always, before it was popular, like collected Boba Fett and like followed.
Yeah, you've been a fan of his since we were teenagers.
Yeah, so when, before all of his, story became legend, like I'm kind of used to like the way he was presented in like graphic novels or in books and like how the story arc is different. I mean, it's okay. I could take it or leave it. I mean, the Mandalorian is, in my opinion, like that storyline and how he goes about it is superior. I mean, I also think that, to be honest, the casting of I cannot remember the actor's name to be Boba Fett.
Oh, the guy who played Django in the movie?
I think is off because Boba Fett should not be that old. It's only been 20 years since what happened on Camino to...
Correct, and he was a little kid.
He was like, he was what, maybe 8, 9? So he would only be like 30.
At the max,
Let's say, give it 40. That is, I mean, sorry, he's that...
Yeah, because this is picking up right after Return of the Jedi.
Right. Yeah. In my opinion, they should have just brought back the same actor who played him as a kid because he would have been now the right age because it's almost the exact same amount of time. So just let him play him if he's still acting. That's my opinion. I didn't have that, and I think it would have fit better. Obviously unaltered clone and all that. You could have spun it any way you wanted. It doesn't have to look exactly like him. If you had an unaltered clone, maybe he came up in his own way or something. But either way, it was okay. Again, I think it was more like to kind of keep moving the Mandalorian story along, which...
Yeah, because they did intertwine.
Yeah.
Boba Fett was first introduced in Mandalorian, wasn't it? Where he meets him. And then didn't they have an episode of Boba where Mandalorian was in there? Remember, there was an episode.
I think the last 4 episodes, because the one is them focusing on, him going back to the finding the armor and uh, what's his name? Paz Vizsla. Had to look at the figure name. So there he is.
Oh.
This is the John Favreau version for those who are asking. It's so that's when he goes back. He finds the coven. He shows the armor, the Beskar spear, which she says Beskar's not made to be weapons. So that's what he has her melt down to make Grogu the shirt from Lord of the Rings. That's what it looks like. I'm sorry, it looks like the Mithril shirt. So, and then he shows her the Darksaber, where she gives some backstory about the history of the Darksaber and Bo-Katan's interacting with Bo-Katan's sister, and which helps fill in some of the gaps for a lot of people who never watched Rebels or the Clone Wars or anything like that. So, and then she's like the armorer is trying to show him how to wield it, and you can see that he's unruly with it. He can't really wield it. It's like it has for something that is a lightsaber. It's like it's special because it's like it has weight to it because unless because you're fighting against it, you have to like become one with the.
Doesn't it have to choose you or something?
It's something like that. They use it. The Mandalorians use it in the lore as whoever possesses the Darksaber is the leader of Mandalore. That's why Bo-Katan was all kind of like upset about the fact that he had it at the end of season 2. And then Paz challenges him because it was his ancestor who created the Darksaber, was the first Mandalorian who was also a Jedi, created the Darksaber. But then he loses. He's asked if he took his helmet off, so he has to tell the truth. And then they're like, all right, you're out.
That's this season now. He's trying because you can redeem yourself.
Yeah. So, but then from there, it goes to them. Him delivering the shirt. He's talking to Ahsoka again. Ahsoka brings the shirt to CGI Luke. And then Luke does his whole thing. So like there's a whole episode that is just basically Mandalorian, and then it ends with him with Mando showing up on Tatooine, saying, all right, I'm gonna help you out, and then that leads to like the final episodes where he's there with Boba Fett and stuff. So so yeah, it all kind of intertwines there. So I mean, good. It's a good show. I mean, it helps and it was done well. But again,
what about Andor? Because I know we talked earlier before we started filming today when we were just kind of recapping on stuff, and I only saw the first episode of Andor, and to be honest, didn't really get into it too much. My family follows Star Wars and the Marvel series, all that stuff, and to be honest, Disney's making too much stuff for me to keep up with at this point because I kind of like the old days where I just saw the movie and that was cool. I think they're dragging these stories on too much, and now I'm getting worn out. Yeah. But I know you said you binge watched it.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on Andor?
I liked Andor. I think Andor is it's a good standalone watch. So like, you obviously if you've seen Rogue One,
which I thought was a good movie,
you know how it ends. But. And for a lot of people, like let's take the Kenobi series for instance. It's like you already know how certain things are going to end, so it kind of removes some of that suspense when certain people are in certain positions. So like in Obi-Wan, for instance, it's like you're never worried that he's going to get caught or hurt or killed there's nothing, none of that because you know how it's going to end.
You know how it ends.
With Andor. Yeah, you know how it's going to end, but they don't focus. But you don't feel like that focus. It's more like the espionage and like the showing the behind the scenes politics, especially like with, like a character like Mon Mothma. Like, yeah, you see her in the movies for like, a couple of scenes. Yep. Many Bothans died. That kind of thing. But basically, but like to see her established as a character and like. The kind of double face that she has to put on of like being a representative in the Senate, but also being someone who is trying to get this rebellion started, and then like having Luther, Luther, Lutheran. I can't remember. It's
Martin Luther?
yeah,
I think you're confusing the Reformation.
yeah, yes, it's true. Yeah. Um. So.
See, I didn't watch it that
Yeah.
far. Now I want to see it. I didn't
Yeah.
know that they gave her backstory.
Oh yeah, they give her a lot of
Okay.
backstory. You get a lot of like, you get more backstory on Saul Guerrera. So you remember him from the Rogue One,
Vaguely.
yeah, I can't remember the actor's name, but he's like, he's in the cave and he's like, "Have you come to kill me?"
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I know who you're talking
so
about.
you get more backstory on him, and it really
Because he's kind of already roughed up in Rogue One.
in Rogue
So
One.
are they
Yes,
showing him?
yeah. So now he's not as rough. Like he's got a couple of things, but not anywhere near like
Yeah,
what
because
you
he was
see.
like dying.
And it's supposed to establish the idea of like he is maybe the more reckless of those who rebel. So like it's setting the groundwork for like there's rebellion in the galaxy, but it's divided. So like you have different groups that feel different ways, and then even amongst those groups, they don't work together. They don't respect each other. And this one character, played by Skarsgård, I can't remember the character's name. It's like Lutheran. I can't remember. Could look it up.
Is this a character only in Andor, or were they also in Rogue One?
No, he's only in Andor.
Okay.
And he's like a mysterious, to
He's
most
part of the
people.
rebellion, though? Or?
Yeah, he's the one that's trying to bring it together to a head. But
Okay.
But again, it's that whole idea of like you're putting on two faces. Living on Coruscant, you're one way, but you have to now be another way when you're doing things out to like recruit people in, or like, and that's the kind of the thing with Andor. It's like there's a lot of things you don't see coming. It's centered around a major heist. Basically, like
I
a
gotta
heist
watch it
thing.
now.
Yeah,
You're
it's good.
explaining
It's
it, and I'm
good.
like, now I want to see
Yeah,
it.
it's good. It's good, and it's like one of those things that it's like, it's just good. Like, it's just good on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And
maybe that's why it's so good, because it's not trying to capitalize on a previous story from the movies.
Right, and it's dark. It's very like they don't pull any punches with stuff. I mean, sometimes people they just get blasted in cold blood. There's torture. There's like all kinds of stuff that shows like that side of the empire. That you see. To really make you feel like, oh man, these guys are bad and they don't always miss their shots or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's good. I liked it.
I'm gonna have to
I
watch
recommend it. I never finished the Kenobi series. I couldn't get past the first 3 episodes. Honestly, I was.
See, that one I watched. I didn't think it was terrible, but there were definitely some things where it's like, okay, they deviated from the original Star Wars movie story, and then you could see how they tried to redeem themselves and try to make it work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Out of all the ones I've seen so far, not counting Andor's, I haven't watched the whole thing. I would say that one might be the worst one. I would say Mandalorian's probably the best.
Yeah.
But now I want to watch Andor.
Yeah,
after
you should.
Hear you give a breakdown on it.
Yeah, you should. It's good. Have you in regards to Marvel, as we talk about Marvel moving into its phase 1050 of its
I think
existence.
Disney's just milking this thing too much.
So now you're making this transition. So like I have not seen anything after Endgame,
including movies.
Correct.
Or okay, because we saw the latest Black Panther movie. I forget what that one's called.
Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, because we like the guy who played him who died.
Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, he was a Christian guy, clean cut guy.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
The company I work for, we actually do Howard University. We do all of the stuff at that campus, so we actually renamed one of the buildings because he went there and he gave a what do you call it?
Commencement speech?
Yeah, he gave a speech like right before he died there. That was really good. But so we've been fans of that movie, and also the actress who plays the new queen is also another one kind of like him. Biblical convictions, Christian actress. So we went out to support it. And I actually liked it. I thought it was good. I never saw the first one.
I've never seen the first one.
Jennifer and my kids did, but I never did. But I went to see the second one with them, and I actually liked it. It was a good movie, good story. They kind of did like a little kind of honor to him in the movie, which I thought was pretty cool. But that's as far as I've gone with Marvel. I haven't seen like all these series that are on right now. I haven't. I'm not in the loop. I know Jennifer is. Now I know the actor who plays darn it, what's his name? The guy with the
Hawkeye.
boat. Yeah, like I know he had
He,
the accident, and they
yeah.
don't know if he'll ever be able to be
Yeah,
back.
yeah. I wasn't there. I know that at some point they were talking about like amputating certain
They didn't have
things.
to, as last I
Okay.
heard, but he's still pretty messed up.
Yeah. So yeah. So like getting to that. So a lot of like what happened after Endgame and trying to establish this whole next phase. They're trying to establish this. The Kang dynasty is the big next thing. So that's established with the new Ant-Man in
See, I hadn't seen that.
Quantumanium. So again, you're back into this. You had the Doctor Strange multiverse of
I
madness
haven't
with
seen
the
that either.
Spider-Man
Yeah.
No Way Home, all revolving around the splitting of the different levels of the multiverse, and like it's a lot that's like, okay, what are we talking about? It's like, especially when you lose all of those major characters, and now you're replacing all of those major characters with characters who are in the comic books.
Well, now they're doing the
admittedly.
young ones, so you can see that they're planning on weeding, as they know the other actors are getting
Right.
old. Now they're bringing like these
Right.
kids in. To take
Right,
them
and
over.
then the other
So it'll never end.
The other comic, and now Spider-Man's out of the picture because Sony's deal with Disney is no longer. So Spider-Man will be moving back to Sony without
really?
without Tom Holland. Yes. So that the reason Disney was able to use Spider-Man and some of those properties was a temporary agreement between them and Sony, but Sony still owns the rights to Spider-Man.
And I guess they're not planning on giving it up.
Right, Spider-Man, Venom, Morbius.
Oh, really?
Anything.
So the whole Spider-Man character base is all Sony?
Yeah. So now they are reintroducing the Daredevil. I personally thought that the Netflix Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Punisher were phenomenal. Very much grown up, very much not meant for kids, very gritty, a lot like the way the comic books, were kind of in the middle, just like that kind of darker side.
Mm-hmm.
And then once Disney had the rights to it, all that Netflix was pulled. Now, last I heard, Disney is going to bring back all of the original cast. So whoever, all the original cast who played Daredevil and Punisher. And
now you're talking about the Netflix Daredevil, because when I think of Daredevil,
Yeah.
I'm thinking all the way back with Ben Affleck, where he played in that one, and they introduced Elektra was in there with Jennifer Gardner, all that stuff. So you're talking after that, because when you say Daredevil, that's what I think of. That's the last one I ever saw.
Just stop. Yeah. So yeah, I'm sorry.
But I know you said it was a good series.
Yeah,
I just never saw it.
It's a good series, done well. The way they presented, like the introduction of like Kingpin. So like Vincent D'Onofrio. So you ever seen like Full Metal Jacket, like the beginning parts of like Private Pile, he was like
Probably
the
a while
fat dude,
back.
or he's also been on like a Law and Order, or he's like
And what they brought him to be King.
so he was Kingpin.
In the comic, he was huge.
He was Kingpin, and he did a phenomenal job. He was excellent as Kingpin. They've already brought him back. I think.
Is he bald though? Because Kingpin was bald in the comic.
Yeah. There's a really great scene with him and the Punisher. It's friggin' awesome. It's so the Punisher that they portray is like ultra. He is violent. It's like no holds barred.
And this is
like,
Dolph who plays him. Like
it's the other guy. What was it? Because a couple different people have played him now.
Yeah.
So it's I can't John Bernal. I'm sorry. I am horrible with
Is he
names.
the one with the slick back hair? Because I have a Punisher movie where he's kind of got like slick back hair.
He's only been in the TV series.
Okay.
He was on The Walking Dead for a while. He's been in some other movies. Have you ever seen Fury? The one with Brad Pitt, the tanks.
No, I wanted to. I heard it was really good.
He's in that. He's been in a lot of movies, usually as a supporting character. I mean, technically, I guess a supporting character as a Punisher in the starting as the Daredevil series and then gets his own series. But does a good job.
I have to see that. I know you mentioned that to me before.
Yeah, you can maybe be able to find it on YouTube. Or
it's
something.
not on Netflix anymore?
Nah, no, they had to pull all of that.
Really? Okay.
So, but they already introduced Daredevil back into the MCU through the She-Hulk TV series.
Jennifer and the kids were watching that. I popped in and saw a couple things of it. I didn't get into it. But
yeah, I only watched the clip that introduced him on YouTube. And he was wearing like the old school red and yellow like he did back in like when he was first introduced. And of course, in typical MCU fashion there, She-Hulk has to give a snarky comment about his color choices and all that stuff. So that's kind of funny, I guess. It's like I think that's a Marvel, like it might be in their contract that they all have to have some kind of snarky quip when they're doing their scenes. So with that, it's like we're making this shift. And I've heard a lot of different commenters that I watch on YouTube and stuff like that refer to it as the MCU because they seem to be transitioning more into like all female characters. You have a female Iron Man, you have a female Black Panther, you have She-Hulk. You're going to have
Hawkeye because they have a young girl now who's coming in.
Hawkeye. So and then they're going to have Ms. Marvel. They're going to have another Captain Marvel movie. So Ms. Marvel is different than Captain Marvel. You'll see that when it comes around. So there's this transition, and and I think they even they also set it up in Ant-Man and the Quantum Manium, where now it's his daughter that takes over, and they introduced Kang, who's supposed to be the new Thanos. Who's made in the movie, again, just watching clips because I really don't want to go and give Disney any more money than I already do for my subscription to their Disney Plus, was that, he's talking about how he's, killed the Avengers time and time again through different timelines and blah, 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 blah. So he's supposed to be setting himself up as the new big baddie, and you're going to find out that, and they're going to have that. So I have no interest.
Yeah, I can't keep up with all these.
I have no interest. And it's like when you talked about me stopping with the collecting of Star Wars. It's like you have at some point you just like, okay, you're going to re-release and repackage and redo these things, and you're going to like keep coming out with like some side character and like whatever, and it's like
well, you're even seeing that in Hollywood with motion pictures. They're recirculating storylines and even remaking movies. Movies that were hits, and they're remaking them with like new actors because I think they're running out of ideas and they just want more money, so they're just recirculating stuff.
Right. So let's, for instance, sorry, Walt, we're not trying to pick on you, but again, Disney. So like Disney over the past, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years, have decided to make live action versions of all of the
cartoons,
their classic cartoons, and not one of them has been successful. None of them.
The only one I saw two. I saw Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast, I thought they did a. I think that was the one that followed the story the most. Aladdin, I did not like, and then Jennifer and the kids, I think, saw Dumbo, which I think that was completely butchered.
Yeah, I mean, all of them. My understanding is that, from a box office standpoint, they've all not been successful.
Well, I thought someone right to TV, and they right to Disney
some of them,
Plus.
and that's it. A lot of them are going to go right to Disney Plus now because they've realized that exactly. So like that's a good bringing that up. That's a good example of like why you have like the Kenobi series and Mandalorian and the Boba Fett series. Things that were originally talked about as motion pictures, but when Solo bombed so bad, they were like, let's try something else. And then that's when they were like, we'll just use our Disney Plus platform. Smart
Which
thinking.
Which seems to be working.
Right, that's smart business thinking because now you can, especially when you're doing it like kind of old school where it's like you have to tune in every week. It's not like
Yeah, like a serial
it's not
chapter.
like Netflix where you
Yeah.
can like when they drop a series and it's like wow, and I can sit in front of the TV for 15 hours and be done.
Yeah.
So it is that. So yes, to their credit, that was the smart move. But again, that's why they're doing it with these because like, did you know that there was a live action Pinocchio? Exactly.
I saw one a while back, like back in the 90s,
Right.
early
No, no,
2000s,
this was like just recently.
and I think I saw this one.
Yeah. So,
I
but
think I
again,
saw, but
that
I think
was
they screwed with the story again.
right. And
They
that,
messed with the
so
story again.
now, obviously, everyone's talked
Yeah,
about
Pinocchio.
everyone's talked about the Little Mermaid.
Is there a live one of that one?
Oh yeah.
I've only seen like the Broadway version.
No, no, there's a live one, and a lot of people were. I mean, I don't care about So a lot of people were upset or unrightfully so. I don't really think it matters, but people choose to find what to be upset about the fact that they cast someone who is African American as Ariel.
I did hear about that. Yeah.
And
they've done that with a few. Even in Beauty and the Beast, there's a character that they put a black actress who's a singer in that role as well.
Yeah. So, and then they cast Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. I don't find her that funny. She was great on the TV series Molly and Mike that I would walk into my break room and catch every now and then, but like as a movie actress with Ghostbusters and stuff, like the Ghostbusters female version, wasn't that funny?
I didn't even see that one.
Yeah, you're not missing anything. But they cast her. A lot of people were saying, why didn't you cast like who played the voice actresses? Why didn't you cast?
Yeah, but that was a while back. They were probably very old.
But so there's been some controversy about that, and then there's like, how are you gonna have what's Sebastian gonna look like? You're gonna have a crab, or I mean,
and animate him.
I think that they may have had some like
I haven't
images.
Seen that one.
I'm sure if Andrew finds any images, he'll put them here, and then you can see them. But now they have announced they're making the Peter Pan and Wendy movie. Not just Peter Pan, it's Peter Pan and Wendy.
Because the last one I saw was Hook with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman, which I like that one. That was a classic, but I didn't know they were making another one.
And again, it's the idea of, they're casting, people of more ethnic backgrounds to be Peter Pan.
So is Peter Pan black or?
He's Hispanic.
Okay.
And then Tinkerbell is black.
So Pedro Pan.
And then Wendy, they're basically changing the entire idea from even the original written book of Peter Pan. Like Peter Pan was not created by Disney; it was a book.
Yeah.
And then now they're deviating that to put Wendy in the light of being a tough, knows how to sword fight, tomboyish like character.
So is this still in production, or is it out?
I think it's going to be coming to Disney Plus soon.
Okay, we'll probably see it because my kids love the Peter Pan, the original.
Yeah, but it's like it's like, are you doing these things because you honestly feel it's right as far as like your casting, your changing of story? A lot of times they'll justify it saying, "Oh, we're trying to bring it up to the times," but the idea behind Wendy's arc in the book is to show the Lost Boys, who at that time were all boys. In this in this one it'll be boys and girls. And I don't even know if in Hook it was
Lost Kids. Is that
well, there's no called the Lost Boys. There's even actually a scene from the trailer that they say they're the Lost Boys, and Wendy's response is, "But you're not all boys," and the girls say, "So what?"
Okay.
So there you go.
Look, I don't care if they want to make the characters Hispanic or black or white. Right. I don't really care about that. The issue I have is when they alter the story. Like I know in Pinocchio, it followed it pretty good, but then they altered. Like I can't remember offhand, but there was a key part that they completely changed. Mm-hmm. If you're going to remake a classic, then remake the classic. If you're going to rewrite it, then make a new movie and call it something else.
Right. And
I don't care about what color the person is.
Right. And I think that's a lot of it is that Hollywood spends more time on how they can take an existing IP and turn it into something else. Like take an existing IP like a James Bond and say, okay, well now James Bond is going to be a woman.
Jane Bond.
Right. But it's like, why? do that.
Yeah.
Why not just make
A new character.
a new character,
Yes.
a new movie, something that's removed from that in the same universe, whatever you want to call it. But instead of saying, okay, no, let's take something from the past and make it better, or
alter
better.
it. Yeah,
alter it. It's like,
and usually it doesn't work.
no, I mean, yeah, are there a lot of things that are outdated, that are maybe not, you know, symbolic of where we are as a people and as a country or whatever? Sure. But you don't change that.
Yeah.
Because if you know, that, again, if you start changing things and then erasing what was there, that's not good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's exactly what the plot of the book 1984 is. But, you know,
Well,
you're
and the
erasing
thing is,
the past.
though, you're taking characters and stories that became hits,
Right.
and now you're going to change them and expect it to ride on that same wave and momentum. Well, it became a hit for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to change it, good luck. You know,
Right.
Like you said, you're better off just creating a whole new character or storyline, even if
Mm-hmm.
you want to be like, you know, because in the old James Bond, you always had the other 00 agents.
Yep.
You can always have another one and then
Right.
create your own character
Right.
and do like a spin-off.
Right. And then, you know, so like now, I mean, I don't know where they're at with it. I mean, I know the whole James Bond thing's kind of installed. And at the end of, in the last installment featuring Daniel Craig, they introduced a black woman who was who said she was the new 007. And
I mean, I guess that could happen.
yeah,
'Cause
sure.
If he retires,
Sure.
that number
That's fine.
goes to somebody
and
else.
and that's fine. But now they're kind of backstepping on themselves, like the company itself or the IP itself, and saying, oh no, we're going to cast a male James Bond, but, you know, might change it up. So, again, I don't think they even know how to handle it. It's like,
they probably got a kickback, and then now they're trying to backpedal.
and that's just it. It's like, are you following, you know, an agenda, or are you trying to make good cinema? Are you trying to, you know, introduce, you know, your own thought processes, or are you trying to, you know, to me, movies and everything should be an escape. It's meant to be. I don't want, you know, anybody's politics or anything rammed down my throat while I'm watching, you know, Iron Man fly through the sky or do whatever. It's like, I'm there to be just entertained.
And back in the day, in the 80s, probably, and back, I think 90s, you started to see them start interjecting.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to worry about that. When you went to a movie, it was strictly for entertainment, unless it was a true story. But it was like, you know, purely entertainment. They weren't trying to like get their political or racial views or whatever of the director and the actors in Hollywood. Like, they had their own voice as individuals, but the movies were always just kind of their own thing.
Yeah, and it's, you know, so again, it's like, come up with your own ideas. You know, it's like, don't have to keep remaking, find something and remake it, or bring something back from the dead that's like, we're going to make a movie, you know, 20 years later.
Yeah.
Like, let's make another Top Gun movie. Now, look, Top Gun did well.
I actually liked it. I saw it.
People like a lot of nostalgia for it. Same thing with Avatar. I mean, James Cameron made a sequel to something that came out, I don't even know how many years ago. A lot of years ago.
Was it 20 or maybe not that
Yeah,
far?
it had to have been close to 20.
I know it was a while, yeah.
So, but some things work and some things don't. For me, it's like the Marvel thing, I think, is dragged on.
I think they've drained it too much, and now it's just getting annoying.
And now with Star Wars, I think the you know, I don't even know if they're planning on making more movies. I know that if you looked up the future of the Star Wars franchise, there is a oak tree branch of projects they're coming out with. Ahsoka,
future stuff?
Oh yeah, Ahsoka,
I heard about that one.
Ahsoka, the new Bad Batch. There's going to be another couple.
Well, Bad Batch was animated. Would have been making a live action?
No, that's still going to be animated. So they're including their animated with theirs, but it's going to be a lot of projects. There's also going to be other live action series that branch off into different things, and some of them may be good. Like Andor, I had no interest in watching. It was just one of those things that after watching the first episode of season 3 of The Mandalorian, it came up. I was with my girlfriend, and I was like, well, it's there, and you just want to check it out. And then we watched all of it until like 4 a.m. because it was that good. So yeah, I mean, I'm willing to give it a chance, but the Marvel stuff,
Yeah,
I really
Marvel,
can't.
like the first couple I got into, but to be honest, I have a lot going on. I don't have time to sit here and like watch like endless hours of series and episodes that just keep dragging on. And then now as the main characters are getting older, they're
Mhm.
bringing in young ones ready to take their place. So this thing's never going to end. It's going to go
Yeah,
forever. It's crazy.
yeah. I mean, but I mean, I guess that keeps making it
Yeah,
money.
I mean
So
they're going to keep draining it. Now, I'm not big in going to the movie theater more. Like I remember back in the day when I was a kid, 80s, even into the 90s. I mean, you knew a movie was coming out and you were like excited and you wanted to go. But nowadays, I think there's not really much out there. I mean, I am looking forward to see the new Indiana Jones movie. I did see one movie that I was waiting for that my family and I saw that was very good. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about with sci-fi and all, but it's called Jesus Revolution. I don't know if you've heard about
I
it.
saw the and
It's
I
with
saw the thing.
Kelsey Grammer and Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus on the Chosen series. But we wanted to see that because it was a true story, and we kind of looked up the real history of the story,
Mm,
and it's this big movement that happened back in the 70s with the hippie movement, and that was actually very good. We've seen it twice.
hmm,
That's the first time I've gone to a movie twice in
wow.
probably 30 years. I don't know because there hasn't been anything worth going
Yeah.
back for. But I am excited to see Indiana Jones just because I've always been a fan of that character and all, and hopefully this is a good one.
Yeah. So along that lines, and I'll ask your opinion about this. So obviously, you and I have been on the planet for almost a half a century now.
Well,
You have.
I'm
I'm
half a
coming up
century.
on it.
You're coming up to the midway point. I'm pulling you up on the top of the hill and say, Jack, get ready to slide
So
back
we
down.
remember when in movies, if there was a younger version of a character, it was always played by a different actor. They tried to find
Well,
somebody
like
that
River Phoenix.
right. So you tried to find somebody that was close or whatever. But nowadays, obviously, they use a lot of de-aging
Yeah.
technology. So what is your opinion about the de-aging?
I think it's like with CGI when that first came on the scene, and they first put it in a
Mm.
few movies, it was cool, but then they overdid it, and I think Lucas is one of the pioneers on that, and then it starts to look ridiculous. Um, I think the aging, if it's like for a quick scene in a movie, is fine, but now with them getting carried away with it, it it starts to look fake.
Sure.
You know, I would much rather have an actor that looks close, play them young, because then you're looking at a real person than looking at a person that's been digitized to look younger.
Yeah.
Like we saw that with like the Mark Hamill
Hmm.
in what was that Boba Fett or Mandalorian or whatever at the end,
Yeah.
and it looked good, but it looked fake. It's
Yeah.
like it looked like Mark Hamill, but
Right.
then the movement was kind of weird. And I know I've seen some of the trailers for the new Indiana Jones movie, and they show them,
Hmm.
and they've just been quick blurbs, and they look good. But if you look close and you look at Harrison Ford back in the '80s, it's not exact. I
Sure.
mean, it looks good, but it's not
Right.
perfect.
A lot of times they try to find like old footage from stuff and like remap it
Yeah,
into
but it's
stuff.
still not the
Yeah.
same. I mean, I would much rather find an actor, and you're not going to find a perfect look-alike.
Sure. Yeah. And I
But
mean that's the point too.
I don't know if you've ever seen the movie called Age of Adeline.
No.
Really good movie. Actually, I'm not into those style of movies too much, but my a friend of mine saw it and he was like, "You got to see it." I was coming home from work and everything to do, so I went to the movie theater and saw it. Loved it. Awesome movie, but Harrison Ford's in it
Okay.
as he is older, and they have a flashback where he's dating Adeline, and they got an actor to play him back in the '60s because he thinks back to the 1960s, I think, when he met her.
Hmm.
And this guy looked a lot like Harrison Ford. I mean, it wasn't
Right.
Harrison Ford. They didn't do any crazy stuff, the
Hmm.
aging or CGI.
Yeah.
It was a real person, but he looked pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's who, when Solo came out, I remember I was thinking, like, I hope they get that guy because he looked
Yeah.
pretty close to
Huh.
Harrison Ford when he was young.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I actually liked Solo because I
Yeah,
think
I
because it
didn't
got
think it
so
was
much negative
bad.
press, I was expecting it to be garbage, and I
Yeah.
walked in, I was like, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I mean, it
But to
just.
answer your question, I think if they use it for quick blurbs, I'm cool with it. But I think they're going to start going overboard with it,
Oh
and
well,
it's
yeah.
going
I
to
mean,
look
well, I mean, you
crazy.
talk about again, not to pick on Marvel, but they used it way too much. They used it all the time.
Oh,
Like,
really? Maybe
oh
I
yeah.
missed it then.
So like, I mean, they were probably one of the ones to start using it the most. I mean, they used it um, for Michael Douglas when,
Oh,
and they
yes,
used
on Ant-Man.
and
But
Ant-Man.
I
They
thought that one
used
looked
it.
good.
They used it for
Michelle Pfeiffer
Robert
or
Downey.
not?
Yep, for Michelle Pfeiffer for Robert Downey Jr.
When did they use it for him?
When it was Iron Man
Was he having
3.
a flashback?
Yeah, he was basically showing his projected memories to a class, and it was
Him
young?
young?
Robert Downey Jr.
Wow.
And he looked like Robert Downey Jr. from like when he
Back to school?
yeah, like back in the 80s.
Did he have the hair?
Yeah.
Really?
Like the whole thing, it looked just like, so I mean,
I must have missed that. Now, as far as for Michael Douglas, I thought that one looked good.
yeah,
I thought that
there's
one
some
was
that
done
have
well.
looked good. There's others that like, and like for instance, I've never seen the Captain Marvel movie, but I've watched enough things. But like, they have a de-aged Samuel L. Jackson throughout the whole
Oh,
movie.
because I saw the movie, I never even caught on to that.
Yeah, so that's
So they
that's,
have him.
that's all
I'm gonna have to
de-aged.
rewatch it then. I didn't
That's
realize
all
that.
de-aged. So yeah, so the technology's there. My thing is
That's right, 'cause it's supposed to be in the 80s.
Yeah.
It starts off.
So I just think like, but in some instances, I agree with you. It's like, you can also find actors. Like there was a lot of people online who, like the guy who plays Bucky.
Oh, and Captain America.
Yeah, they showed him like as Luke, and he looks exactly like young
Mark
Mark
Hamill? Really? I never noticed
has
that.
the hair. Yeah. So like they showed what he would look like, and everyone was hoping that they would just be like, just cast him.
I would rather that, because that's what we grew up with. Like back in the 80s and 90s,
Yeah.
before all this stuff, you just got someone who looked close,
Right.
and then that was it. So
Yeah.
I would, like I said, if it's a quick blurb, I'm fine with it. But if they're going to start doing it too much, which Hollywood does, like a new technology for
Right.
special effects comes out and they overuse it,
Yeah.
and then it looks ridiculous.
Well, that's like I saw a blurb of a interview with Keanu Reeves, and even Keanu Reeves was like, he doesn't believe in using the de-aging technology. He says if you use that, you basically lose your legacy.
Yeah.
It's like you're in his opinion, and I agree with that. It's like, just be who you're going to be. Let that
Correct.
in.
Correct. Yeah. And then if you do want to show a young version of a character, just get somebody who
Yep.
looks close enough to that part.
Yep. So, all right.
All right. Well, I think we're kind of wrapping up. Just wanted to shoot another underground. I know a lot's been going on here, as we saw here in Jack's collecting kind of whatever you want to call this room here. I mean, it's a studio, collecting room, whatever. And definitely got a lot going on. It's looking good. But I just wanted to kind of focus on some of the new movies and some of the toy things he's into, and just shoot another video. So Jack, thanks for being on here again. This is, I think, our third one.
Yep.
Maybe we can get him a little more frequent.
Yeah.
But thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments for myself or Jack, please send them in. We would love to hear from you. I keep trying to get him to start his own channel because he's got so much going on with the miniatures that he does. He's very artistic, and just the technology he's dealing with the 3D printing and other things that he's making and building. I think it'd be a cool channel. So maybe you'll finally get it off the ground.
Yeah,
I think that would be cool. But thanks for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.